some heartbreaks don't begin with a relationship. They begin with a conversation. One that lasts until 2 in the morning. One where someone says, "I've never told anyone this before." For many demisexual people, that's where attraction quietly begins. Not with appearance. Not with instant chemistry. With trust. And that's why it hurts so much when the person who made you feel emotionally safe turns out to be emotionally unavailable. Because by the time you realize they can't truly meet you where you are, your heart has already arrived. It never feels sudden. Feels natural. You tell yourself you're simply getting to know someone. Then you start looking forward to every message. You notice when they seem quieter than usual. You remember details they forgot they even shared. Without realizing it, they've become part of your emotional routine. One day, your phone stays silent, and somehow, the silence hurts more than an argument ever could. Most people think attraction comes first and emotional connection follows. For many demisexual people, it's often the opposite. The emotional bond becomes the foundation. Romantic feelings grow afterward, which means when that foundation cracks, everything built on top of it collapses too. People around you rarely understand. You weren't even together, but inside, felt real. Every late-night conversation mattered. Every vulnerable confession mattered. Every future you quietly imagined mattered. The relationship may never have had a label. The attachment still existed. Modern dating has become incredibly good at creating emotional intensity. People exchange childhood stories, fears, ambitions, and trauma before they truly know each other. Technology has made vulnerability easier to share, not easier to sustain. Someone can make you feel deeply understood without ever being emotionally available. Sometimes they don't even realize it themselves. They enjoy closeness. They just struggle with commitment. And for someone whose attraction depends on emotional intimacy, that contradiction becomes devastating. Every meaningful conversation feels like progress, until suddenly, it doesn't. Replies become slower. Plans become uncertain. Affection becomes inconsistent. Not enough to leave. Just enough to make you question yourself. So you replay conversations. You wonder if you said too much, or not enough. You convince yourself they're just busy. They're overwhelmed. They'll come back. Hope becomes louder than reality. And hope is dangerous when emotional attachment already exists, because every small moment of affection feels like proof that things are finally changing. Then they disappear again. That cycle changes people. Not overnight. Quietly. You begin editing yourself. You wait longer before replying. You stop expressing your needs. You pretend uncertainty doesn't bother you. You become easier to keep around by becoming smaller. Not because you've done anything wrong. Because you're trying to fit inside someone else's emotional limits. One compromise becomes another. One swallowed feeling becomes 10. Eventually you don't recognize yourself anymore. Modern dating often rewards emotional convenience. Keep your options open. Don't get attached. Don't define the relationship. Move on quickly. But emotional connection doesn't work like that for everyone. Especially when attraction grows slowly. You can't simply replace someone who became emotionally significant. That's why letting go feels impossible. You're not losing a casual connection. You're grieving an emotional home you thought you had found. One of the hardest truths to accept is this. Someone can genuinely care about you and still be incapable of building a healthy relationship with you. Both things can be true. That's what makes walking away so painful. Because compassion keeps whispering that if you're patient enough, they'll eventually choose you. But love cannot survive on potential alone. A relationship needs consistency. Without consistency, affection becomes confusion. Without commitment, intimacy becomes uncertainty. Eventually, your nervous system starts confusing unpredictability with love. When someone is warm one day and distant the next, your brain keeps searching for answers. You become emotionally hyper-aware. Every text feels important. Every delay feels personal. Every small sign of affection feels enormous. Not because you're overly sensitive, because uncertainty keeps your mind trapped in survival mode. Over time, calm starts feeling unfamiliar. Consistency feels almost suspicious. Chaos begins masquerading as chemistry. That's one of the quietest consequences of repeated disappointment. Your heart starts recognizing anxiety as connection. Social media quietly reinforces it. Every scroll reminds you how easily people seem replaceable. Everyone appears happier. Everyone appears chosen. Meanwhile, you're wondering why someone who said they cared keeps disappearing without explanation. Comparison slowly becomes self-doubt. You start asking whether you're too much, too emotional, too patient, too complicated. But maybe you've been asking the wrong question. Maybe the real question isn't whether you're too much. Maybe it's whether you've been trying to earn certainty from someone who was never able to give it. Real intimacy shouldn't require constant investigation. It shouldn't leave you decoding silence. It shouldn't make you feel grateful for the smallest signs of consistency. The deepest human need isn't constant excitement. It's emotional rest. It's knowing where you stand. It's feeling safe enough to stop guessing. For many demisexual people, that's what attraction was searching for all along. Not perfection. Not fantasy. Just someone whose care doesn't disappear when vulnerability becomes inconvenient. Perhaps the most painful realization comes much later. You weren't falling in love with emotional distance. You were falling in love with the hope that one day, emotional distance would become emotional presence. That hope can keep someone waiting for months, sometimes years, not because they're weak, because the connection felt real. And it was. The bond existed. The future simply didn't. Those are not the same thing. The hardest part isn't letting go of the person. It's letting go of the life you quietly imagined with them. The conversations you thought you'd have. The memories you thought you'd make. The version of yourself that believed waiting would eventually be rewarded. Then one day something changes. You stop asking, "Why don't they choose me?" And you begin asking something much more important. What would my life feel like if I stopped chasing people who keep asking me to wait? That question doesn't erase the pain, but it changes its direction. Because healing doesn't always begin when someone finally loves you back. Sometimes healing begins the moment you realize that love should never require you to become smaller, quieter, or less yourself just to keep someone from leaving. The right connection doesn't leave you constantly wondering where you stand. It lets you finally put your heart down and rest.